Hello everyone, I'm the EFC and this is Blue Lines TV, and today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. Now for the first part of this video I'm going to be going through the predicted lineup, and for the second part of this video I'm going to be doing a match preview. Now just a quick reminder, there are a few players who aren't going to be making it into the squad. That's going to be Gary Cahill and Cesc Fabregas, and remember Pedro and Morata are suspended for the following game, but Conte did state in his press conference that Barkley might possibly get some game time coming on, most realistically as a substitute, depending on how the course of the game goes. And if you look at our previous form over the past few weeks, then you know Barkley will definitely be coming on for the game tomorrow. Now getting straight into the predicted 11 part of this video, starting with the goalkeeper, and of course Courtois is going to be in goal, and really I've been very impressed with him over the past 5 weeks. He's been making some incredible saves. That game against Arsenal I think was his personal best ever performance playing for Chelsea, and he's been so dominant, and you're really noticing and realising his world-class capabilities and his qualities. And I think too often Courtois is a guy that doesn't really get enough credit or praise, but he's been very impressive, and for me I think he'd be our player of the month. Moving on to the back three, on the right hand side Azpilicueta will regain his place in the team. In the middle of the back three, Christensen will be playing there, and I think on the left hand side Conte will go for Rudiger, as Rudiger was rested for the game against Norwich. Moving on to the wing backs, Moses will regain his place in the team. He was obviously rested for this game, and Alonso will be coming straight back into the team as well. Now I see us using a 3-4-3 for the following game, and I think that Kante and Bakayoko will be the midfield pairing for the game against Brighton. Now in my opinion, my worst fears have really come true this season. Now last year I was quite critical of the Matic and Kante partnership. I felt that defensively they were amazing, but when it came to doing anything meaningful with the ball in the final third, there really wasn't any creativity. And you've got to remember, Matic did get about 7 assists during last season, but then we've kind of downgraded that pairing by having Bakayoko in the team. Bakayoko doesn't really have any influence in our midfield in terms of manipulation of the ball. His defensive awareness isn't great. As I was saying before we even signed him, a lot of times he lets balls come in from behind him and he doesn't do anything about it because he doesn't have any good reading of the game just yet. And if anything, it's put more pressure on Kante when they're playing in a midfield too, because Kante has to start delivering the ball more in the final thirds. Now moving on to the front three, starting with the left hand side, that's going to be Eden Hazard. And with Hazard, I've been very frustrated that Conte continuously keeps subbing him off all the time, and I'm not going to be surprised to see him sub off Hazard for Barkley in the game tomorrow. And honestly, Conte in his press conference, it was quite telling in regards to Eden Hazard, because really if you did watch that press conference, the impression I got was that Hazard isn't happy. He hasn't been happy at getting subbed off, and Conte's basically telling him, I'm the manager, I make the decisions, if you don't like it, tough. And I think that's quite telling, and I'm surprised that no one's really picked up on that as much. Playing up front beside Hazard will be Michy. It's fairly obvious because Morata is suspended and there's no Pedro either, so I'm not even expecting to see Hazard used in that false 9 role. And with Michy, I'm not really expecting him to do much. Yes, he did get a goal against Norwich, but again, his overall play is just not good enough. He doesn't suit the role that Conte needs. There's no movement, and really he does make that front three very static. He doesn't compliment anyone whatsoever, and I'm not expecting a great game again tomorrow from Michy. And on the right hand side, I'm expecting Willian to play, and again I do get frustrated with how Willian's used. When I see him used in the middle and on the left hand side, he looks amazing, and when I see him on the right hand side, again it's just so slow. That right hand side doesn't really help Moses anymore, and it doesn't really help Willian because they do have 2 right feet, and really it's a more support role that they're playing. Really Willian's much better cutting inside, playing in those central areas, and I think that Moses needs that space created by the winger beside him to help free up more space for him and give him that ability to really burst through in the final thirds. That's the lineup I see Conte picking now. This is the lineup I would pick for the following game. Of course, in goal I've gone for Courtois. Now for the back three, I've gone for something different. I put Azpilicueta on the left hand side because I'm thinking really with Aspi pushing into midfield, there is no Morata, there is no aerial threat, so when it comes to making those crosses from deep, it's really not going to do anything in that game because Michy just isn't the striker who makes those types of runs or gets on the end on that type of service. In the middle of the back three, I've gone for David Luiz, and on the right hand side I've gone for Andreas Christensen. Against Norwich, I really liked Christensen playing higher up the pitch, and I think that that's a role that he could really develop in. And I would like to see that. Honestly, I've always felt with Luiz and Christensen, they're better on the ball compared to Azpilicueta, and I've always felt that some of that creativity from the back could have really helped out the team even more. The wing backs are Moses and Alonso, but in midfield I've gone for Drinkwater and Kante, and I feel that this is a partnership that we haven't really seen too much of this season, and I really feel that it provides a much more better balance in terms of attacking distribution and defensive awareness. And I think that Bakayoko really needs to have some time on the bench to really try and force his way back into the team. But up front, I've gone for Masunda on the left, Hazard up front, and Willian on the right hand side. I feel that that would be an incredibly fluid front three. I think that they would all get proper support from each other. I think that Masunda was amazing when he played with Hazard last time against Nottingham Forest, and I think that with Michy up front, it's just too static. He doesn't move, he doesn't complement that front three, and it really helps to isolate things on the pitch. And it's a big responsibility to play as a striker in a Chelsea system, but Michy just doesn't complement that style of play. This is going to be the match preview segment of today's video. First thing we must realise about Brighton is that they've become a defensive fortress. They've lost one game at home this season out of 9 attempts, but their recent form hasn't been too great. They've only won one game in the past 5 attempts. Now, we did beat Brighton earlier on Boxing Day. That was a 2-0 victory for us, and really, in terms of how the game went, it's going to be very similar when we play them again tomorrow. Now, how will Brighton look to set up against us tomorrow? Well, it's going to be identical to their first half performance. Brighton are a very defensive team, and again, they're another team in this league that don't have any counter-attacking threat. Brighton are going to look to defend very deep. They're going to defend in numbers. They use 5 in midfield as well. Their wingers come back to help support the fullbacks behind them, and they have to work very, very hard. A lot of you guys know already, but just in case of people who don't realise why teams like this decide to defend so deep and compact, the reason they do that is to, one, limit teams' counter-attacking opportunities against them. They don't want to leave any space or holes in behind. They don't want to leave any space so no one can make any late man runs or play between the lines, because when you play between the lines against teams like this, you start to open them up. Brighton's 5 men in midfield work very hard, and they are going to defend out wide effectively and in central areas as well, so they are difficult to break down. Another thing that Brighton look to do as well is they use a lot of delaying tactics. Now, during that first game against them, we did beat them 2-0, they were really slowing down the play a lot of times, either by making fouls, delaying tactics. Anytime they played on their counter-attack, they'd attack down and get straight to the corner flag. And when they got the ball, they just looked to play it around the back, because again, we have no pressing system, we have no high pressing system. Conte likes the team to come and sit deep so they can create those counter-attacking opportunities that rarely ever come. And with Brighton playing this game, they really did have a really good first half against us. We struggled to create anything against them. The reason why we were able to beat them was actually down to 2 things. One, getting the early goal, and getting the early goal against teams like this is vital because it changes the whole dynamics of games. And also, our defenders had a lot of space to push into midfield, and they push very, very high. A lot of times they were pushing up into the final third areas because, again, Brighton had no high pressing system of their own. Hammond was left by himself. Of course, really with the wingers, they really have to just come back to help support the fullbacks. They don't really come to press our 3 centre-backs because there was no effective high press on Brighton. Our defenders had all the time and joy to move into the final third, and with those late man runs, that was how we were able to get the first goal. Of course, we were switching it from left to right as we like to do. Brighton fell asleep in that moment in time. Aspie played one of his cross passes to Morata, and Morata scored with a header, and that changed the whole dynamic of the game. But tomorrow it's going to be a bit trickier because we have so many players out. Now, Cesc Fabregas won't be playing. Conte said that himself. He's great at playing in between those lines and playing those passes for guys that make those late man runs as well. Also, he does actually push forward and becomes an option in the final third. He's really effective at helping us break down these defensive teams, so it's going to be hard not having him. And we don't have Morata with his movement and his aerial prowess, and there's no Pedro as well. Now, the first thing to beat Brighton is we can't use a 3-5-2. That will just be playing in their favour. And this is controversial, but we can't use Michy Batshuayi as well. Now I've explained my stance on Michy for so long. He's a very good player. It's just that, as I keep stressing, strikers are supposed to complement the team they're playing for. Usually the best strikers are usually the best because they have a team that supports their style, and strikers just complement that. Michy unfortunately doesn't complement how Conte wants the team to play, and this is the main reason for why he struggles. He's a penalty box striker and he gets on the ends of attacks. Now Conte doesn't like that. The striker for Conte has to do a lot more. He has to be able to drop deep, link up the play, hold possession, etc, etc, and Michy just can't do that. Now if we do use Michy in this game tomorrow, really that's going to make our front three very stagnant. There aren't going to be many runs. Everything becomes much more slower and tepid because Michy isn't creating space for other players to move into. Now really what Conte needs to do is play Hazard as a false 9, play Willian and play Musunda on the left. Now it's time to take a risk, take a chance. We can't afford to draw another game. It's been 5 games now without winning a game in normal time. Take that risk, play an attacking player. Musunda isn't going to be a weakness playing against Brighton, which are effectively still as championship sides. The beauty of this is that we can play Hazard as a false 9 where he can play between the lines, and the thing is Brighton defenders will have no one to man mark. That means that when we are collecting the ball between the lines, between Willian, Musunda and Hazard, that free flowing movement, that's going to have to force Brighton to step up to help deal with those guys, and by doing that, that's going to free up space for our wing backs to make those late man runs in behind where we can hopefully stretch Brighton and create chances on goal. Because to beat Brighton, it's key that we get the first goal. As I've said already in this video, once we get the first goal, the game's in our favour, and that changes the whole dynamics and we're in control. Brighton aren't even a counter-attacking team, they're a defensive team. They have no attacking threat, so really there is no excuse to not be gung-ho and play brave and aggressive against Brighton. Another key thing is be effective from set pieces and play crosses inside the box. Too often we play short, unnecessary corners that do nothing. It's time to start playing balls in the box. That was how we were able to beat Brighton in the game on Boxing Day. Brighton will give us a lot of set piece opportunities as well due to how they defend, and we need to take the advantage in those situations. But anyway you guys, my match prediction for the game, I'm going for a 2-0 win. I think it's going to be the same thing. I think that we will get an early goal. I'm not expecting a very fast first half. It's going to really depend on Conte's approach to the game. I have a feeling he's not going to use Musunda, but I really think that he's the type of profiler player that's really going to help the team, because we can't afford to use Michy up front because it just doesn't really help our attacking plays. But anyway you guys, thank you for watching today's video. I'm going to be releasing another video later tonight with Italian Football TV. We're going to be talking about Emerson Palmieri, Edin Dzeko and Allegri, so stay tuned for that. And please, if you haven't pressed the bell notification button, what are you waiting for? Press that and stay notified to all things Blue Lions TV. Anyway you guys, I'm the EFC. This is Blue Lions TV, signing out.